It's being called the Trump bump. Despite an initial plummet on election night, the Dow soared after President-elect Donald Trump's upset victory, with finance and energy stocks leading the way. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren not too happy with the rally, tweeting on Thursday, quote, "Why is Wall Street celebrating Donald Trump? Because his administration looks like an investment banker's dream." Steve Moore is a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation and economic advisor to President-elect Donald Trump. Welcome, Steve. Good to see you.
Hi, Paul.
So some economists, particularly Keynesians, are attributing the increase in the stock market to the prospect of more deficit spending, bigger deficits. How do you see the rally?
I think what happened was that originally Wall Street and investors around the country were just afraid of the kind of change that Donald Trump was going to bring, that kind of risk of anything that's new. And I think when Wall Street and companies started looking at the real agenda of cutting taxes, pro-American energy policy, getting rid of a lot of the regulations, they said, hey, this is actually going to be good for investment. Incidentally, it's not only the reason, Paul, that the stock market has risen, but I would make the case to you that actually the increase in interest rates, not significant, but it's been a slow rise in rates since Election Day, are a result of the fact that there's going to be more demand for investment capital. And when companies want to invest more, they go out and borrow, and that raises interest rates. But it's one of the few times when you actually a rise in interest rates is a good thing. I think it's bullish.
Well, they've been historically low anyway, so even in this rise is not likely to tank the economy. So what are the two big priorities here? I mean, what are the first priorities? I think everybody says tax reform right at the top of the list, maybe in exchange for infrastructure spending, and repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act. Is that how you see it?
Those two obviously are legislatively right out of the gate, but don't forget, I think Donald Trump, there's a good chance in literally his first day in office, when he enters the Oval Office, he is going to sign executive orders to repeal a lot of Obama's executive orders, a lot of the things that you all have written about day after day on the Journal editorial page, things like the Clean Power Plant bill, some of the labor regulations that have been passed under Obama. And look, I think the Democrats are going to learn that if you live by executive order, you die by them. And remember, Ronald Reagan's first act as president was to rescind by executive order all of the oil and natural gas price controls, and that led to a boom in the energy sector. So that regulation is going to be a big factor. And then you go to the tax and Obamacare issues. I haven't worked too much on the Obamacare issue, so I'll just leave that to someone else. But I'll say on the tax bill,
let's focus on that.
Yeah, I think we can pass something in the first 150 days. And the potential is possibly, this is being discussed, it's not certain, that you do a kind of jobs bill right out of the gate that has the business tax cuts, which is really the heart of the plan, getting that rate down to 15%. We think we can get that through the House in 30 days because it's so similar to what Paul Ryan wants to do. Then you take it over to the Senate, and as you said, maybe you add some infrastructure spending in that package to get some Democratic votes, and then I think you could get something with perhaps 65 votes in the Senate. You may not even need the so-called reconciliation process.
But here, Steve, I talked to Kevin Brady, who's the chairman of House Ways and Means Committee, and he said he doesn't want to split corporate tax reform from individual tax reform because he believes that you have to do the two together to make the kind of efficient allocation of capital, number one. And number two, politically, if you do corporate tax reform first, as you described, you may never be able to cut individual rates.
Well, that's a good point, and I actually just met with the chairman as well. He made the same point to me, and so that's why this is being debated. Chairman Brady wants to go for the big bang, get everything done, and I would love to see that happen. The individual rates, we bring that top individual rate down to 33%. We eliminate deductions. The only thing I would say about that, Paul, and I've been an advocate of this for 30 years, but it's tricky, it's thorny to get, you have to take on a lot of the special interest groups in Washington, the housing lobby, the charitable groups, the municipal bond people, and they are powerful special interest groups that will try to block it.
If you don't do that in the first 100 or 150 days, you never do it. You've got to use that political capital right out of the blocks. Don't you agree?
Oh, definitely. And look, when I've talked to the Trump folks about this, they believe and we believe that this has to get done right away. When you've got disarray, that's the time, in the Democratic Party, that's the time you really move quickly. And by the way, Barack Obama did that fairly effectively himself in his first 100 days. The only difference is that I believe that The mistake that Barack Obama made, that I think he will regret for the rest of his life, is that he never reached really across the aisle to try to get Republicans on board, and that means Republicans have no buy-in. Donald Trump could, in the first year of his office, almost entirely repeal the entire legacy of Barack Obama's presidency when you talk about taxes and Obamacare and so on. Yeah.
All right, and I take your point certainly, and I agree with it on reaching out to Democrats. But here's the issue: they're going to ask for a price, okay? And their price is going to be a fair amount of spending, because they're going to take some of that money from tax reform and push it into public works or other things. And if he wants Senate votes to get to 60, he's going to have to agree with that. And here's the rub: you're going to have a very big deficit if you do that. What's your response to that?
My response is our number one priority from day one is to get the economic growth rate up, Paul, from 1.5% to 4%. You can't make any progress on the deficit or the debt until you get that growth rate up. And jobs was the number one issue for the American people. That's going to be our number one priority.
All right. Thanks very much, Steve Moore, for being here.